Welcome to my rewrite of the World of Darkness universe. This rewrite is based around addressing certain inherent world-building problems and complementing the way most people play the various games in the universe. This large-scale homebrew is solely from a lore perspective, so feel free to use your favorite WOD system with its content. This rewrite will feature a uniting Lovecraftian monomyth, allowing all mythologies to play more of a role in the wider mythos of the world instead of just the Abrahamic one, a further thematic focus that properly utilizes all the subgenres of horror to emphasize different levels of exploration in it, and a noir flavor focusing on setting games between the 1890s to early 2000s. There are two great stories that World of Darkness opens itself to in imagination as soon as one gazes at any of the game's lore. First is personal horror, which it does very well. Second, which is largely neutered from the universe, is that of the tragic hero, and I find that quite tragic. If you haven't heard of Pulp Cthulhu, it's a change to the core Call of Cthulhu game that makes the game more fun by allowing the existence of action hero-like characters in that cosmic horror universe, which usually features powerless characters in line with the cosmic horror genre. Think of this as Pulp a Vampire. It's more than that, though. More than just literary improvements, I hope I can start a trend or style that embraces the kind of writing we saw in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines as humor. VTM is at its best when it's willing to laugh at itself and embrace wholeheartedly the absurd elements of its universe as just that, absurd. You have to be concerned with other people having fun to be funny. So that's where we want to focus. Finally, before we go any further, a huge thank you, a wholehearted thank you to my YouTube audience, Subscribe Star donators, and my longtime sponsor Ronin Kraft, who actually participated in this homebrew by making a character, who were all in support of this project, which I've been wanting to do forever. It means the world to me that you guys cared this much. An even deeper thank you to my Discord community who have been participating in my homebrew as I write it by creating different characters, some of which we'll go through in the second half of this video. And what I'll go over again at the end of this video, I'll be featuring characters. If you want to make one, join the Discord, it's linked below. That's why I didn't do a video that required sources. If you want to join the Discord and make a character, I'll feature the character and a description of the character in a video, because this whole thing is about making sure you can have fun. You, audience man, out there, I am making sure you have fun. Without further delay, I welcome you to my World of Darkness. If you'd like to see future videos a week early, along with other unique content, go to the Subscribe Star link in the description box, select any tier to contribute, and sign up as a member of the Grimdark Army. My thanks to the current men and women in service, whose names are seen here. Grimdark. Half off! For now, let's talk about what World of Darkness gets right for those unfamiliar with the universe. A lot of the flaws we'll be correcting moving into my pulp-style WOD comes to us from the aftermath of the most famous and well-written game the universe has to offer, that being Vampire the Masquerade, a name that, even if you don't know the universe, you've likely heard of. In my opinion, the reason vampires work so well in that game is that while being able to be unique by the extreme variety of their clans, they never violate what could best be thought of as all the fundamental things we would call a vampire. This is the very definition of an archetype. The vampire archetype in Western history is described by Professor Michael Kritzer as being a creature that is designed to warn us of the dangers of forgotten certain fundamental truths about life. It is a parasite that can be sometimes savage and sometimes civilized, shape-shifting between the two to accomplish its goals. But above all else, they are creatures of lies. They fear the universal truths that exist in most religions, just as they fear all truth symbolized by the sun. We can see this respected in the universe, as all vampires in World of Darkness have some social ability, some physical ability, burn in the sunlight, and must uphold a series of lies called the Masquerade to prevent humanity from learning about, thus outnumbering them, in what would likely be the end of their species. While not offended by religion, often having their own vampire-friendly versions of whatever religion they had in life, it is based on a personal faith and a series of lies. Their second-best written setting, Hunter, has people imbued by real agents of a general supernatural divine power to destroy them in some cases. While Dracula is an actual character in VTM, belonging to the clan Zamisi in Transylvania. Another way of explaining the vampire powers, even the clan-specific ones, in relation to the vampire archetype in-game, would be simply asking, Could Dracula do it? Then stretching that as far as it will go. Could Dracula make people crazy? Probably. Here's an entire clan called the Malkavians, with a special power called dementation to do that. Could Dracula turn into other stuff? Sure. Here's a clan called the Gangrel, designed around their special discipline of proteon that lets them become animals. In addition, there are other powers like potence for strength, celerity for speed, and dominate for hypnotism that aren't specific to any one clan. This heavy respect for what vampires were was tied to a unique mythology, which despite being spoken of in biblical terms through the lens of Abrahamic figures, those same figures were basically the biblically accurate angels meme. If you're not familiar, it's just a series of jokes comparing the depiction of Old Testament angels to Lovecraftian abominations. Lilith in particular reads like an original character mixed with Shub-Niggurath, Cthulhu, and Conan's Derketo, depending on the point in her life we're talking about. The creature called God in VTM was best described as an Apollonian Azathoth Cronus amalgam figure, an all-powerful entity capable of destroying other entities with a thought who reality bends to the slightest will of. However, he is also a power-hungry tyrant actively stunting the growth of his children, just as Cronus ate the gods before being ultimately sealed away in Tartarus by Zeus. My point being that this universe had a lot of Lovecraftian as well as polytheistic elements, and it's clear that the Abrahamic interpretation of the mythos found here was only meant to be one possible reading of it. This can be shown in the Egyptian clan, the followers of Set, who were, I assume, meant to be the beginning of a wider view of this cosmic horror aspect to VTM that was soon forgotten when overlaps in the universe caused by the creation of other games like Mage the Awakening, which dealt with a convoluted reality-bending system of magic, blundered their way into existence. If this writing theme continued, we likely would have also gotten a Norse, Hellenic, Native American, and more takes on the mythos. Instead, we got weird stuff like gods such as the Norse Odin and the Persian god Mitra being vampires, not even like first or antediluvians, just regular vampires. And it's like, well, okay, you can do that as long as, you don't also have mages, which you do, or werewolves, which you do. Another example of things that sound really cool at first, but then make no sense in the wider universe, would be a famous dispute between the warrior-like vampire clan, the Bruja, and the aristocrat-like vampire clan, the Ventru. This conflict implies that Rome was fully under the control of the Ventru and that the Bruja, as well as other clans, fully controlled Carthage. One has to wonder what the mages, hunters, imbued, and the general rest of humanity, who are supposedly a threat to vampires in greater number, were doing at this time. Really, this myth is fine as an exaggeration, and even better if it's indicative of just where the clan's most favored culture was. However, it's taken literally despite the fact that the same relationship does not exist in the modern world. America and other countries have secret divisions which hunt supernatural entities. These same agencies in some cases are so well funded they can afford to set up secret detectors on the borders of countries to sense when one enters or leaves and if they're supernatural or not. Obviously, a more shadowy existence for vampires and other supernaturals makes more sense. For all we know, the writing could have been pointing that way before the change in direction. Sadly, as time would move on, a lot of the better lore would be exchanged for doubling down on the Abrahamic inspiration, to the point where people kind of think of Cain as just the oldest vampire when he was something much cooler, effectively being the bridge between the gothic fear-based horror of future vampires and the cosmic creeping dread horror of higher entities. This is one of the many reasons we will be instituting a monomyth and a general quadrant faction system to the universe in terms of its driving forces. You'll find this goes a lot smoother without anyone losing their identity. Currently, these quadrants are named the following: Tragic Heroes of Humanity, which encompasses hunters and wraiths; Undead Agents of Misanthropy, which groups together vampires and Kuei Jin; Savage Soldiers of Nature, which encompasses werewolves, and for reasons we will be making much, much clearer in the rewrite, demons; and finally, Insane Esotericists of Magic, encompassing mages and my rewrite of changelings. If you want to bring your own World of Darkness to life, then you'll probably need today's sponsor, Ronin Kraft, who, at this point, needs no introduction on this channel. The minis printed by Ronin Kraft are hands down some of the best you'll find for both sci-fi or fantasy. With Ronin Kraft, you'll find quality that surpasses any master. The current campaign my community wants to do is set in a homebrewed version of 1943 New Orleans, featuring themes of faith, alligators, and conspiracy. The independent clan Samedi is going to war with the local leaders of the Camarilla for full control over the Sunshine State. An all-too-human tale of spycraft between American OSS and Falanges Spain agents plays out in a weapon manufacturing plant on the outskirts of the city. The current head of the city is Prince Alistair Valentino, a Ventru who is the ringmaster of the local circus. This setting includes a race war between Wendigo werewolves and Macaulay were-crocodiles. Here are some of the characters my community has been working on. Everything is subject to change at this time. The player's name is listed in the chapter. Easily our most enthusiastic player has been Wulu, who created the miniature Nosferatu character known as Mouse. She's a classic Nosferatu cryptophile, but with a twist. Not only is she half the size of most of her clan, but she also has the social discipline of presence instead of the vampiric strength of potence usually found in the clan. Turned into a Nosferatu by a pen pal to save her from a mugging, she now finds herself in the city of New Orleans, where two contacts she previously knew are now in positions very close to leaders of the city's vampire population. Wulu also did the majority of the design for many important NPCs in our version of New Orleans, including the city's sheriff, the prince, and the primogen of the Malkavians. I absolutely love her contributions. Hailing from a sect of the followers of Set in frontier America, the serial killer known as Santolo abducts his victims in the middle of the harsh weather events the city is known for, while manipulating a local couple turned hunters after the death of their child. Unknown to them, they are currently the ghouls of Santolo, as they are given special potions, which he claims will make them better hunters before sending them out after those he views as his rivals in kindred society. It's only a matter of time before they too hear his line, "Thank you for your service," before his jaws unhinge like a snake, crushing their heads and drinking their blood. After his brother died in the infamous Halifax explosion, a man by an unknown name took multiple identities to cope with the survivor's guilt, until becoming further entangled with a criminal lifestyle. Before long, he would become one of a precious few to survive a war-form attack from a Pharaoh. This makes him one of our homebrew concepts, called a Bitten, which basically exists for you to play the cursed werewolf instead of the hack-and-slash werewolf usually available in World of Darkness. Able to shapeshift into a black caiman alligator, a scaled man, or a prehistoric land alligator, the Macaulay Bitten is now making his way to New Orleans to seek guidance from others of his kind who may want to exterminate him as an aberration or welcome him. On an investigative mission of vengeance, the as-of-yet nameless nomad Gangrel was turned during his initial mission of revenge for the burning of his farm and the killing of his extended family after the War for Colombian independence. Since his turning, he's been a nomad surviving in the rural areas of South America, moving north until he finally crossed state lines from Texas into the Sunshine State. His quest already resulting in the diablerie of his sire, he will be entering the city as an 8th-generation vampire. Armed only with his hatred of Spain and battle-hardened experience, how will this outsider of great power fit in with the vampire society he has yet to really experience? Blending into a crowd is a skill uncommon for Malkavians, but is one that Robert Johnson, commonly known as Bob, uses to his advantage all too often. Working for the local Dunder Mifflin Paper Company, he is plagued by visions of himself as a brutal murderer, which may or may not be his actual actions, as well as conversations he frequently finds himself in with inanimate objects. His mission so far is simply to keep a low profile, but how long can he manage that in a city torn apart by war and chaos? Sealed inside the obsidian Macaulay relic of an Ouroboros, Nyarlethotep, a lore master who has helped me with a lot of my Conan videos, will be playing an earthbound demon of the same name, pushed by the trauma it experienced before the time of the Wonderworks, as the demon watched the torture of the eldritch chaos deity known as the Worm go insane itself. Now Ouroboros uses all the influence it possesses to end as much life as possible as a joke, hoping for a universal reset to set everything right. The second of our earthbound demons is being played by a fellow YouTuber and author, Eradication. His concept is based on some of his original works and simply referred to as the Blooded Eye. Disguising himself as a blood god to those who interact with him, in truth he is merely a blood-obsessed entity which has attracted him to the world of vampires, who are his favorite playthings. A changeling hailing from England, Leonore de Pinci is a fortune-teller and tarot card enthusiast who switches between the appearance of a classical elf to allies and a swarm of deadly rock crabs to her enemies. How will this mystic being, that focuses heavily on crustacean-like totems, survive in this world of bloodsuckers? Embraced during the Spanish conquest of the Americas, Ahab is the archetype of both Clan La Sombra and a sailor. He's defined by his relationship with his rival, a wicked wereshark who wages war on his shipping business as part of a personal conflict that goes back over 100 years. One devoted to the void through abyss mysticism, and another, a soldier sworn to protect nature from the unnatural undead. I'm going to try to include character concepts people in my community create, as the reason for this rewrite is to accommodate the characters they want to create and make it more fun for them. By the end of this series, which will be guided by their raw desire for fun, it will be my own homebrew universe for the cheesy, fun stories, whether one-shots or long campaigns, that I can play with my friends and possibly use it to make new ones. I deeply hope you'll join us for part 1 of Pulp Vampire. Of course, before I go, I must also thank you for watching. Without you, there would be no audience, and without an audience, there would be no entertainers. Thank you for listening, and have a lovely night.